What is going on, YouTube? This is Barrett with Espresso Outlet. I have something that is huge. This is your next grinder. I know a lot of people, they knew this was coming. We kind of had a unplanned unveiling of it, but today I received this demo unit. Now this, I don't believe is going to be 110% what you're going to get. I think there's a couple minor things that they will end up changing just based off of what they've told me. And I think it's just the declumper. So basically what you see here is what you get. I've been playing with this. I've done a couple of Instagram lives. So if you want to watch some of the recordings, you can check out my Instagram at Portakeeper. We're wanting to get this out on YouTube though. So here is the DF64V. Let's go over just kind of what makes this thing tick. So this is the first DC grinder from Turin, and it takes the same 64 millimeter burrs as the DF64 and the DF83, or DF64 and DF64E and P. So it has the same burrs, but it has a huge upgrade in terms of the burrs that they put in it. So from now on, at least with this grinder, it comes with these DLC coated burrs. And if you're not familiar with what DLC is, it's diamond-like coating. It's kind of a black coating. And if I put these two side by side, this DF64 actually has the SSP high uniformity burrs in it. And I would say that these two, this one just straight out the box is pretty similar in flavor to this one that has the upgrade already. So even though this was probably going to cost quite a bit more than this, you're getting tons of stuff just straight out of the box. So that leads to a price. I think it's $5.99. You can get it at espressooutlet.net. At least right now, they are pre-sold on the first pre-order, but there is another pre-order of grinders coming within the next few months. So if you're wanting to get your hands on one, these are going to disappear super fast. Next thing, it's a 300 watt DC motor. And why it needs to be DC is this is the first one with variable RPM. So the DF64V, the V is for variable RPM. So it goes from 500 to 1800 RPMs. It goes in increments, and it's probably hard to see with a little bit of reflection and the refresh of my camera, but it goes in 100 RPM increments. And this dial is like an infinite dial. So if you keep turning it, it's not going to go any less than the 500. If you keep turning it up, it's not going to go any more than the 1800. So it keeps spinning. Very nice feature, very clean and elegant feeling. The power button is on the other side. And I know a lot of people originally, they complained about the DF64 having this button in the front. It was a little bit hard to reach. Now you have the DF83 and then like your E and P that have them on the side. That's okay. I think that this is a very welcome upgrade in terms of the power button placement, and it looks awesome. I mean, it's very high-end looking. And it's running. Can you even hear it? You can barely hear it running. So that is probably the most impressive thing with this grinder. They opted to remove the fork for the cup because what was happening is it was making some additional noise. So now we have this little pillar that we place in front, and then we have this aluminum dosing cup that we place on it. So extremely quiet. We're at 1800 RPMs right now, and there's 500 RPM. Now, they have recommended when you do the 500 RPM, and I just recommend this in general, you should do a hot start on this grinder. What does a hot start mean? Turn on the grinder. So we're going to turn it on. It's running right now. And then we're going to dose our beans. We're going to dump them in. And we want this to be running. We don't want to dump them in and then turn it on, especially at the low RPMs. But let's say you did that and your grinder stalls. It is a very slow RPM for this motor. Even though this motor is huge and has tons of torque, there's only so much that it can do. So if that does happen, it has built-in protections to not ruin your motor. So your motor's not going to keep running. It's not going to keep getting hotter and hotter and hotter. It's going to turn off. And if there's any sort of a stall, what it does is it actually ups the RPM just to give it that little boost of torque. So I'm gonna have lots of people ridicule on this. We have a decibel meter. And this is just with it running. Let's say, I don't know, 18 inches. About 63 decibels just with it running. I don't have my camera relocated so that you can see the screen better. I'm going to do a full video just on the decibels. Let's say we go down to 500 at 18 inches. It's about 60, 61. There's actually background noise that it's picking up on, and it spikes just with me talking. So extremely low on the decibels. We could probably throw some beans in and do that, but I really want to do that in a different video. So don't ridicule me on that, because I know I already have people planning to say I did that wrong. Let's turn this off and go over some more of the features. So really cool stuff. This chute is now magnetic. So no more, if you had the DF64, you had to undo the power button screw and it was the whole base, and it was kind of hard to take apart. Now to clean it, it's as simple as it's magnetic and you just pop it off. And maybe at the end of the day, it actually comes with this little brush. You just sweep out some of the grounds. Has a really simple declumper, nice little metal declumper. Supposedly they're gonna upgrade that a little bit. Let's say you get some coffee kind of up on the edges, the entire chute actually comes off. So it's two pieces, and they're held on with magnets. So you can reach in there and you can really clean this thing out extremely nice. And then just pop it back on and pop that back on. So if you're not loving this thing yet, next part is the dial on top of it. So the dial works quite a bit different than the DF64 and the 83, I guess. So on these two, you adjust this whole collar right here. And on this one, this collar actually does not adjust. It goes all the way to 0, and that's it. There is a little white line right here. It's a little bit hard to see with the lighting. And we're on setting 17. So instead of turning this whole dial or this whole collar, we now turn this upper carrier. I recommend, if you're going to go coarse or finer, to turn it on before adjusting. But you can see how easy it is to adjust. So if we put it back on 17, that's where we started. Next really cool thing is, let's say these awesome DLC burrs just aren't your thing, and you want to go with like some of the MP burrs from SSP, like I have in this DF64E behind it. Previously, what you had to do on these grinders is get a replacement upper dial. And with this one, you don't have to do that. What you're going to do is you're going to crank this down until it's 0. And then on the back side, there's a little set screw. And once this collar is 0, you're just going to move that to the 0 mark, tighten your set screw, and then redial in your grinder. So no more messing around with stickers and labels and dials. I took the dial off this. Usually I replace them with the Portakeeper dial, just because I don't like those metal ones that come with it. And really you don't need any of that anymore. It's going to be pretty sweet. The bellow, it's a lot smaller. This is the V4 bellow, and this is the DF64V. So that's 64V for version 4, latest version, and here's the new one. Tons smaller. So a little bit more elegant looking, I think. Has your wooden lid, and then just your normal bellow. Wonder if this can go, yeah, it looks like it can go either way. So, very simplistic, elegant design. Okay, so at the top we have this little funnel, and this is where you're gonna pour your beans. If you look inside, you can see a little metal disc, and that is the built-in anti-popcorn. I did some testing on it, and it works quite well. If you just poured some beans in right now, you are going to get some popcorning. But with this, at least with that funnel in and the anti-popcorn and no bellows, I didn't get a single ground come out. So built in, nice funnel, works very well for dosing, and you get the anti-popcorn built in. So very nice, steep funnel. You're not going to get beans stuck to the side. I never really had that problem, but I've seen some people say like, oh, I'll get some beans stuck to the side. Very aggressive, steep funnel. So I think that's a huge improvement. I'm going to open up the burrs next. To get to the burrs is extremely easy. So I mentioned before, we're going to turn this dial for your adjustment, but this collar still does rotate. So don't think that you're adjusting your grind setting. That's not really what you're doing. This comes off and it is your burr holder or your upper burr carrier. So this adjustment mechanism is all one piece. It has some grease in there. Make sure to leave the grease. And then you have your upper burr itself. So I like to orient, let me grab a Sharpie. I like to mark. Earlier I was opening it up, and I like to make sure to put the burrs back in the same way that I took them out. So I put little marks on that burr carrier, and we're just gonna pop this burr out. And you can see they're kind of a black color. Okay, I grabbed the DF64 stock burrs. So you can kind of see that there's like a black tint, and these are the DLC coated diamond light carbon burrs. And then these are the stock DF64 burrs. So I like the cut pattern on these DLC burrs just a lot more. These Italmill have been awesome, but I feel like this is like a $200 upgrade right here, just straight out of the box. That's huge, I think. Another addition is this wave spring. So on the DF64, they had just coil springs. On the DF83, they opted for a wave spring. Again, they came back with a wave spring, and it's somewhat captive. It has a rubber O-ring right here. So that rubber O-ring even prevents that spring from falling off. But last look at that before we go on. So that's pretty solid. Here's the bottom burr carrier. Has a really nice looking kind of triangle design to kind of fling the beans out, I think is what they're going for here. And I think it looks really cool on top of just design element. And it really just has some static. I just ran quite a bit of coffee through this. Or I say static, not static. Fines just stuck to the sides. So there's your inside of your grinder. I'll probably blow this out and get it nice and clean. Let's turn it around. I'm going to remove this so that we can kind of see out, hopefully. There's your exit chute. It's a very simple exit chute with a very simple metal declumper. Then you have your wipers for pushing your beans out the chute. I guess it goes that way. So this thing's very easy to clean, I would say. I mean, it took not that long to open up, and let's put it back together real quick. Just kind of align it, make sure not to bend these little rubber feet. And I like to make sure that there's no grounds on the bottom. I usually go backwards. You shouldn't cross thread it. I know that was an issue with the very early ones. They've upgraded their burrs or their threads on these just so much. So when you get it all the way tight again and you hit that 0 point, You can put your chute backs on, and as long as you haven't moved this dial very much, you can go like right back to your setting. So you shouldn't really lose your setting that poor, at least I don't think, just the way that it's designed, unlike some of the DF64s where once you take off that upper burr, you're kind of trying to tweak it to get your setting back. You will probably move this when you clean it, but it's just so much more elegant. I really love this thing so far. Let's see. Bottom side, 300 watt, has 64 millimeter flat burrs, serial number 1. So, first time seeing it here. Very cool. If you have any questions, we're kind of doing like a question and answer type video. I'll probably shoot that next. Might have to do more than one. But we've had just lots of questions on what does this mean? What does that mean? What's this going to do? What's that going to do? So we want to make sure to answer all those questions. Make sure to drop them in the comments below. That's usually the best place for me to find them. But again, thank you for watching this DF64V. Extremely impressed with it so far. I was talking on a live a little bit ago when I pulled it out of the box. And someone said, yeah, but what's it taste like in the cup? We're going to do videos on that. I've pulled some Ethiopian that I roasted the other day on it a little bit ago, and it was fantastic. I ran it at 1300 RPMs. Typically for espresso, the higher RPM is going to be better. And for drip, if you want that additional clarity to be added to your cup, the lower RPM is probably going to be better there. But just straight out of the box, I pulled this shot of Ethiopian, and it was just very buttery smooth. I felt like there was quite a bit of texture there that I wasn't expecting. Maybe it's just that coffee. I need to try probably a couple others. Let me look over here. I have some Costa Rican that I might run through it. I actually ran a little bit through first on a finer setting. It's a much darker bean. I think that's just going to scream. It's going to be so good. But again, thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe because we're going to be dropping all sorts of content on this. Make sure to subscribe to this channel, the Collider Roasters channel. It's a new channel we're doing a lot of roasting stuff on. Make sure to go to Home Espresso Aficionados on Facebook, and that's usually where you're going to see the most up-to-date information on this grinder. We've already dropped it on a pre-sale. Those pre-sale are gone, but we're going to drop them again soon for the next batch pre-sale. So that's probably the best place to see that when they come available. When they're gone, it might be a little bit because they're pretty hot right now. So again, thanks for watching, and we'll talk here soon. Thanks.